now we'll turn it over to Dr. Stone.
Thank you very much, Mary. And at that point, I think the chair is probably going to declare us finished for the moment, and we will then turn our efforts under Aaron's leadership to coalescing all of our ideas and thoughts and recommendations and boundaries and feeder patterns and everything else that we've done into some sort of a presentable form. I don't see either of our school board members here, but we're getting close enough that we need to be thinking about how we make this presentation. I will tell you only that I think we're going to spend at least 2 meetings. I'm pretty confident at least 2. I hope not more than that on these feeder patterns. I suspect we'll spend 1 meeting just in conversation about all of our recommendations to help Aaron get that report. And then I am committed to having 1 last public session. When we're finished, we're going to present to the public. It won't be a surprise to anybody because we will have already posted it as we did and are from our other deliberations. But we'll put microphones into the public's hands and let them ask us questions with the understanding that we're not going to be making any changes at that point. But if they want to air concerns or questions that they don't feel were appropriately addressed, they'll have the opportunity to do that and get it on the record. And then we'll turn it over and we'll be done. So before we leave tonight, committee members, we'll need to pull out our calendars. I'm anticipating we're going to take next week off because of spring break. So we're going to need 3 dates in April, that week of the 6th through the 10th, I believe. We've looked at potential meeting room dates, and I think what we have found are Monday, Wednesday, Friday are available. I'm concerned about that last one being on a Friday afternoon because I'd like it to be later in the evening so that more people can participate from the public. That's the whole point of that last meeting. So we move over to the next week to have our on schedule. So that's it. We're going to start with the feeder patterns. Bob did a wonderful explanation for us. Lisa is now printing a new document for us that will even will make it even easier for the committee and the public to understand. As I have reviewed what I've called them anomalies in the feeder patterns, Bob likes the word conflict.
I like anomaly better.
Yeah, he's more combative than am I. But Lisa is now going to be passing out these new documents that kind of give us an overview of where these anomaly conflicts exist. And what we're going to find is that some of them are pretty easy fixes. We're thinking 4, 5, or 6 of them might be just hardly have to do anything. And the others we're going to have to spend some time on and work through. We recognize some of our friends in the audience who've been with us for so long, and we certainly are interested in addressing the concerns of neighborhoods who have asked us to consider new options. We're going to do that. So with that, let me make sure we have enough people here. We do. Okay. That brings an interesting point. We got 1 or 2 comments from the public about not having a quorum when we voted on something somewhere along the way. 29 people. It is actually 24. Bob, Mary, Lisa, the 2 school board members are all ex officio who do not vote. So our real number is 24, and we've had 1 member who you may have noticed has not been able to attend, so we really only have 23 people who have been considering this thing. So that's where we are. I don't even know why I said that. Okay, Lisa, if you can.
Okay, just to go over the documents that you've received tonight, got the copy of the written public comments that were left up there. You've also got a copy of the feedback. In 24 hours, you got 45 comments, so people love you. 4 comments are just general. I do want you to stop for a second and read the first bullet. In fact, it's from someone who has who said that they had grown cynical about the school district and that watching you guys work has given them faith again. So I thanked whoever that was for saying something kind.
Another satisfied customer.
You've got a comment about socioeconomic balance. You've got a couple of questions. Yeah, you're wrong.
Yeah.
Thanks, this is a reveal. A couple of comments about grandfathering. You had 2 comments about the you had 3 comments about the action you took last night. 2 from the Wyndham area, and then 1 from Greenbrier. Thank you. And then you have a whole several pages of comments about the feeder patterns from the Ashland being split between LTMS and Morton. You've got 1 from Copperfield and 1 from Saddle Club. And then you had 3 comments that you hadn't gotten before about specific neighborhoods, so I pulled them up so you could see them. And then you had some comments from people who are either not pleased with the action that you took on their neighborhood or weren't aware that you took any action. And we're still asking for the same thing. So that's your Let's Talk. And then you've got some letters, petitions, and those are attached in the back. Okay, so I'm going to make sure Scott's volume is up.
Yes.
Pattern thing. So, so I want you to be able to jump in too. So Bob had done.
Did you send me, Lisa? Did you send me what you revised via email?
That right now, Scott. Mary, can you send me this email with this document? Mary's going to email that to you, Scott.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, so basically, when the elementary schools open in 2016, there will be 35 elementary schools in the district who have a feeder pattern. We're not counting Maxwell. Of those 35 schools, 21 of those elementary schools feed into just 1 middle school already. So we've listed those there. There are 14 elementary schools that feed 2 middle schools. And what Scott has done is, so for example, the first bullet shows Arlington Elementary. Arlington has 416 students if they were existing with the new zones today. And of those 416, 415 of them would be zoned to Bryan Station Middle, and 1 would be zoned to Windward. So that's an anomaly, like Alan was talking about. At Ashland, there are 286 students, and they're split 162 to LTMS and 124 to Morton. And then, of course, you know that that 286 number is low because there's also a GT cluster there. And the kids from the GT cluster, depending on where they live, either go to Winburn or Tates Creek Middle if they so choose. So, so that's how those numbers work. The first number is the number of kids in that building, and then it shows how it splits off. Then we did the same thing at the middle school level. There are 11 middle schools feeding 6 high schools when we open. Of those 11 middle schools, 1 middle school feeds just 1 high school, and that's Southern Middle into Tates Creek. Then there's 9 middle schools that feed 2 high schools, and you've got 1 middle school feeding 4 high schools in your current proposal. And that shows you how those break down. So that gives you an idea of the number of families impacted there. Okay? And again, that's current residents if the new zones were today, so it's not looking projected. It doesn't look at just 5th graders. In any given year, you might have 50 5th graders who live in one place and 2 or 3 in the other. But That's just if we had feeder patterns today.
Thank you, Lisa. Bob, I was asked to ask you, from some committee members, how this compares to what we have currently. How many situations do we have in our current situation, current patterns that would fall into these conflicts?
I haven't looked at it recently to have a precise answer, but I would say we have less, maybe 30% less. Maybe. You know, the feeder pattern diagram that we had last time is in the same format as the one you had earlier in the year. Right. So you can see conflicts in each.
We do have that information. It's just that was April or May when we saw it, I think.
Well, the old one, yes. And then, yes.
So that's what the question was. Am I right, James? Yeah.
I got it right.
Is that the old one?
You've marked it like,
I had 14 elementary schools that went split up. Is that the one last night or the early one?
How many?
this is the one
That's where we are today, right?
So there's 14 before and 14 now,
I had 14 elementary schools that split.
and that's what we have now. So it's about the same.
Well,
I'm going to guess there are no middle schools being 4 different. No high schools that are set about 4 different middle schools.
yes,
There is.
we're in station right now. We've got Grand Station, Middle Crawford, Lee's Town,
the middle, so the other way around.
middle school. Oh, I didn't get that far. I ran.
And currently, we've got about four or five middle schools that feed purely into the high school. Beaumont, for example. I mean, right now we've got Southern in the proposed one. Southern does right now as well. But also, Beaumont currently does. LTMS, at least in terms of feeder area, does. I believe Morton does. There are several more that, at the middle school level, feed cleanly into the high school. But I don't think the majority of the middle schools feed cleanly. About half of them.
I just want
The only other new thing, I wanted to mention that, this sheet shows the projected enrollment in the building for elementary school. It, like the middle and high, it builds upon current projections, but brings in the information from this. It is by no means a perfect estimate, and I would even admit that it's hardest to be a good estimate in the cases where it's probably most important to you, unfortunately. A case like Athens, Charlesburg, and Breckenridge, there's so many kids who currently live in Breckenridge going to 8 that to figure it out today is somewhat possible, and then to project it is even harder. But nevertheless,
On the other hand, there's still way over capacity, right?
right. So at least I've given you some numbers so you know what they are. One thing I did do here, because we know the Richmond Road corridor is going to be overcrowded for a little bit until we build a new school. For a couple schools, I put an adjusted, in particular Athens, Charlesburg. Their capacity is 650, but for the continuation plan and considering the fact that they're affordable, we currently wouldn't mind putting 800 in there temporarily. And so I did that for Yates. And
Are those percentages based on that number?
yeah, the percentages are based on the number over on the left. If the number on the left is bold, that's a little different from what's in your normal figures.
Well, that actually makes a big difference here.
For Athens, Charlesburg, it usually
It
does.
sure does. It goes from being a problem child to being okay.
Basically.
Why don't you give this to us a long time ago?
You guys did pretty good in the line, didn't you?
You want to see if we fit there?
Well, that's pretty screwed up there. Okay, that's good stuff. Anybody?
But reminder that with this, whereas in the past, if you were at 108%, you know, you could hope it worked out in the end. Now, if you're at 100%, it's unlikely to work unless the projections are just a little off. It's hard to operate an elementary school at less than 50 below capacity. If capacity is 600, once you get to around 550, 575, then you start getting the uneven distribution in the building makes it really difficult to operate properly.
Well, based on a conversation that a number of us have had here today, I would encourage the committee to take a look at 2018 and identify those schools that we were talking about as potentially being severely under capacity. Let's see if my thinking on that was right. And I'm finding 5 schools.
Can I ask you a quick question?
You bet.
Looking at the Booker T. Washington, it starts the capacity at 450 and then it's 612, 280, 290, 297. That's a pretty huge drop. Is that because of redistricting or is that, because there are 2 Booker T. Washington schools, right? There's the, primary and intermediate, I don't know. No. So is the capacity for both of those schools together 450?
No. That's, and that's where I made that bold. 450 is the number we've been working with because that's the capacity of the primary building. And so once the redistricting goes into effect, 450 is an appropriate figure. And the expectation is that the intermediate building will not be in use for elementary purposes after redistricting. For the year 2015, before that new building, or before the new building opens and the intermediate building is closed, I used a higher capacity figure that's not on the chart. That's how it's 91% 2015, even though it's 600 kids. I used 650, but I didn't put that on the chart because it's for that 1 year only.
So that'll be 280 kids grades K through 5?
Correct.
I had a question about Maxwell. The enrollment percentage in 2016 is 44%, and those are all magnet schools, right?
That's a mistake. I'm not sure why that is a mistake there, but that's. Thank you for catching that.
They should be on the list, correct?
It's not a concern to you all, no. And when I say that's a mistake, their enrollment will be much higher than 266. I'm not sure why that figure's in there. It should still be in the 530, 550 vicinity. I didn't check that. Pardon me? It's Maxwell. It's the 100% immersion magnet. It is not. You all have not discussed it during redistricting at any length.
Are the numbers for the other magnet schools like Dixie, so 600 on here, 350 on the other one, just same adjustment? Or?
Dixie already has the adjustment in there. Yeah, Dixie, for example, 600 is their building capacity. We adjusted it to 350 for our.
So you're talking total population?
Yes.
Got you. All right.
So 600 is the total capacity, and the projections in here for Dixie are total enrollment.
Okay, let me just throw this out since we had the conversation about it. You used 70% capacity in 2018 as the absolute minimum. You're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 schools, but they include Russell Cave, which we have all decided there's not much we can do about that. They also include Booker T that we reduced capacity yesterday on purpose to. But the others are Garden Springs, James Lay and Allen, Maxwell is the magnet school, Southern and Yates. So at risk, if you will, 1, 2, 3, 4 schools that meet that criteria.
Can I ask one more? I'm sorry. The numbers don't match on this.
Yeah, that's the big difference. You've been spending all this process emphasizing residents. This is enrollment. This is big
Like
steps.
out of area, special programs,
Yes.
that kind of thing. Okay.
Everything put in there. And that's what the previous big sheet I gave you that had middle and high on it was also.
And so those schools, again, identifying them are Garden Springs, James Lane Allen, Southern, and Yates. The converse of that, using a 110% max, we have 2 schools. Cassidy, the planned new school east of 75, and the worst is Wellington. Put that in your memory banks as we go through here, and we consider utilization of our schools and whether a school board would accept our recommendations based on that.
And Alan, what was your threshold for over?
70 to 110. And Cassidy's at 113 was the lowest proposal.
And Alan, again,
Yes.
these numbers are based on Bob's best estimate of people who would actually go to these schools,
That is correct.
given
These are
movement
not
between magnets.
clearly not set in stone because we don't know.
Right.
Best guess is based on history. You know, there is some historical data that Bob, I believe, has used or could have used about when we build new schools, how many students leave the private school sector and come into our new schools, et cetera.
And I'll point that out. I did not add a number for private school. So, for example, at ACE, we didn't calculate at the time and could not go back and estimate it, I don't believe, how many kids came from private school. But I do recall generally that whatever figure we thought was about right for ACE, we thought there was going to be, maybe approaching 100 kids came more than we had projected and expected. Well, I think we've been fairly close in Liberty and Sandersville generally.
Okay. Well, you know, at ACE, 100 kids takes us to 104.5% or 105%.
Well, I'm not saying that we would expect 100 more at ACE because of redistricting. I'm thinking that the new school, projections for the new school could be short, 50 maybe.
Okay.
Wouldn't the same thing happen in private school if they got redistricted? More goes up to another private school. We don't.
The general rule is we don't know what those private school students are going to do. We can't.
Says a lot of people say they will go to private schools, but
Aren't they all full?
93% of them do not.
Isn't there a waiting list for all of them?
Hey, Bob, when you get a chance, can you email me the elementary projections?
Yes.
Did you
Okay.
send those to me, Bob? 'Cause I sent them.
No, I didn't send them out,
Okay.
finishing them an hour ago.
All right, let's begin our process in discussion of these feeder patterns, and let's try to eliminate some of the low-hanging fruit real quickly. As we can do that. Bob, you've identified a few where that might happen.
Okay.
Scott, what do we do here?
We're ready to go.
Do we need to do anything at the individual computers? Is everybody?
I think, okay, I'm all set.
Did you already get it in?
Where's the regs that go, bud?
I put them in this morning.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Okay, that one's not.
Cheers.
You got UK, I think.
Oh, I thought he was doing that just to
To pick on Bryson.
cheer us on.
Bryson,
It was.
Virginia. Take go.
Okay.
There we are. Everybody on board? All right, Bob, if you can identify the
Couple.
Well, let me explain what you're seeing here. I broke this down into segments, let's say. So if we zoom in here, we could see it's got the feeder pattern for each of these segments. This area goes to Glendover, Morton, and then Lafayette. That's the feeder pattern. They're all color-coded. They all have the study areas available to look at them, too, and the streets. So go ahead, Bob.
Okay. And that purple one to start with, I don't know that that's one that you should address easily, but the fact is there's extremely few students in there. And it's right in the middle of high school that you might even end up drawing a line right through the middle of UK that makes it look good, doesn't affect anybody, and does make them all feed together. I don't know that I would start with that one as one to change yet, but eventually end with that one.
All right, Bob, where should we start?
Yeah.
Okay, the light lime green one up north of there.
Ashland?
Yes. We may discuss more difficult parts of Ashland later, but that lime green area has almost no kids, and the boundary for the high school is relatively good there, and you're going to debate, you've already been debating what the middle school boundary should be, but certainly that lime green area is in LTMS, and all of Harrison goes to LTMS. All of Harrison goes to Lafayette. So just go ahead and put that area in Harrison rather than having it Ashland.
What do we need to look at when we make any of these decisions? We've got to look and see where our starting points are on capacity.
Yes, that'd be good. Particularly if there's a lot of students involved, yeah. In this case, there are.
I mean, Ashland.
The latest version had them in Ashland. Some of them were in Harrison before the whole process started.
So they're currently districted for who?
Some of them are currently districted Harrison, and some are currently districted Ashland.
With
the red
these,
line, huh?
the red line is the middle school. The dash blue is the high school. There, in these 5 study areas, there's a total of 3 students. 3 K-5 students.
Basically downtown and Good Samaritan Hospital, UK dorms, UK Student Center. It makes rose the boundary instead of limestone.
Okay, works for me. Are we good with that?
You know where I work? Doesn't matter.
It's near there, but not
Right.
not quite. Yeah, near there, but not in.
Seems like you're going in that direction.
Yeah, we're not going to inch that. But that was not that.
Well,
That's not.
we have capacity at Harrison.
All four of them.
Yeah. Well, you know, we just need a process here. Okay. We got a consensus on that one?
Yeah.
Okay. Swell. Okay.
Can I be the pain in the butt? Instead of moving these 5 to Harrison, which would make the study area, would make the attendance area go like this, instead of a nice even line, why can't we move the middle school, the high school boundary, I think was the issue here, up to here?
When you blow back, that area would, it makes Lafayette's area, more narrow.
Okay, then we'll do it. We'll go to Harris.
Everybody following this? Okay.
The red is
Since our most balanced schools are the high schools, we want to try to avoid. High school line instead of the section line.
In almost all these, well, he can speak for himself, but I would say that in almost all of these cases, you've got 3 lines, and you can choose which one you want to attempt to move, but one might stick out, and we'll get to another case where one might stick out more than the other. But here, middle would not be one to move yet. You might end up moving it later, but it's a much more complicated move.
Okay, are we good with that change? Let's move on. I'm wondering if we should talk timekeeper tonight.
Okay.
If you don't mind.
stop.
Well, it's not like we paid any attention to it.
We are. That's discretion. I mean,
It's a theoretical try.
The green ones are conflict. I'll mark them in yellow with my finish.
Okay.
And I wouldn't have necessarily taken these in the area. You might as well do the ones that are nearby, but 317.
Right. That's all students.
That's
a lot of
it's UK students, not K-5 students.
There might be a few off for sales revenue.
Yes, there might be a few.
All right, so what was the proposed change here?
Harrison Elementary, and you generally have Harrison feeding well into, so just go ahead and put 517 LTMS. 517?
317.
3-7.
3. How many students? 317.
I don't think there's any. Oh, I'm sorry, there's 28.
At the elementary.
And that's going into Harrison.
Well, they're already in Harrison.
Oh, they're already
They're-
in 12.
At this point, I'm proposing the middle school change.
So from Harrison, we've got 28 students going to Beaumont and 273 going to LTMS. So that was 28 right there.
That's, yes.
That would get the perfect feeder pattern from Harrison. You go to Harrison, then you go to LTMS.
And if we're right about those students being up for sale roadside,
So the audio keeps going back and forth and out, so I didn't quite catch where we're at. Was it changing the elementary school here or middle school?
Middle.
Okay.
really, student housing, all the departments are 317, it's all right.
Get the name of that.
Along Angliana, it
Angliana.
mostly is.
Yeah, there's been a lot of new student housing along England. I think that is one thing.
Okay, so you'd like 317 to go from Beaumont to Lexington, LTMS.
Yeah.
Anybody keeping score, by the way? Checking off our list. Okay.
Okay, that's done.
Do we want to simply do the easiest one
Yes.
all around? Okay. At the elementary school level, the Arlington example, that is the first example on the list from Lisa and Scott. Scott, you know those study areas. That both of those study areas and a much larger area go to Windburn. So not any reason to change middle or high. But at the elementary, that's the only portion of Arlington that doesn't go to Bryan Station Middle.
148.
Yes, 148 to 71.
It's right, 72.
72.
Yeah.
And that's not all commercial.
I mean,
148.
almost all.
We've got one student that gave an address in 72 and 0 students in 48. 48.
So,
And I would guess the school to change them to, it's not perfect, but northern seems the most logical right there.
It's done.
That works. All right, next.
We're going to run out of easels pretty quickly. 18. By the way, my comment to committee members, if you want to look at these large maps at any time that have street names on them and have all three lines, I hope you all have looked at them enough beforehand to know that, yeah, the color shows elementary.
Right.
Yeah, blue. It's the same as what Scott's got there, so it doesn't have study areas. It does have street.
What was the study area?
270.
Got out Richmond Road all the way to Cleveland Road, rural area.
Okay.
Keep going further southeast. Yeah. 279, I mean, we know 279 and 299 are the Athens community. And right now we've got a high school line, the blue high school, yeah. High school line goes through the middle. The elementary keeps Athens as one area, and the elementary, I think is the other elementary. Both sides of the blue line go to Edith J. Hayes. There are a couple ways to address that. Generally, I would think both the high school and the elementary line could go north in the rural area and have a consistent line somewhere a little bit north of there, perhaps approaching Todd's Road. It wouldn't affect our Manning kids at any level.
Well, how many kids are in 279 or 279?
Let me bring up the high school plan.
For the record, Ron joined the meeting at 5:15.
Good. Thank you. How are the cherry blossoms?
I don't think they're out yet.
They're on the thing.
Okay, there are 0 kids in 279 and 5 kids in 299.
How many in 249?
Six.
So the recommendation is what?
I would think we should consider including 249, 278B, and 279. Those three study areas back in Athens, Charlesburg, and in Henry Clay. And this does assume that Charlesburg stays in Henry Clay. And frankly, in the final end, you might make that line a little different, going all the way up to the bike pathway.
Did you say 248 or just 278?
78B.
49 and 79.
You also do 278A?
No. I mean, we could, yeah, 278A is just a church. So it could be 278A. We would not get into 248.
No, not 248 or 47.
Right.
Scott, are you waiting on us?
Yeah, I am. I'm sorry. Again, the audio is horrible. You guys keep knocking out, and I can barely hear you.
Would you like us to hang up and try to call back in?
Yeah, why don't we both do that?
Okay. All right, is that the last one of our low-hanging fruit?
It's your West Virginia stuff.
Yeah, it must be.
Is it?
Hello?
I can hear you, Scott.
Okay.
Are you there, Scott?
I am here.
Okay.
And I believe Ron's here, too.
LeBron?
Yeah, LeBron.
LeBron, oh, Ron. What you said LeBron, like LeBron James. You know my mind's on
I'm taking
that.
my skills to Washington.
Okay, so since we're talking three different levels all at the same time, when you guys ask me to do something, please just specify if we're moving elementary, middle, or high school first, and then tell me which ones you want to do.
So what do you have open, elementary or high?
I have elementary open right now.
So elementary, you'd be changing those two, 278B and 249 to Athens Child. Oh, and 278A.
Okay, great. Is that the change you wanted?
Yes. And the same thing at the high school level too, Henry Clay.
Okay. So let me lock this in and then get to the high school one. So I'm switching back and forth between these three here.
Right.
Okay.
278A.
Okay.
Should we see what the middle school looks like while we're here? We don't have any choices.
It looks like it's all at paved.
Yeah, I mean, whatever's choice for their have.
Putting some of that in Crawford. That's obviously a more complicated one, but I mean a bigger issue.
The Crawford's numbers are also growing in the next 5 years, or they were.
Let's leave that one.
Yeah, leave that for
Let's leave that.
You're at the high school level, Scott?
Okay.
Stay at the high school. The high school level, let's go look over by Squires Elementary. Still using the high school, though. See where the red line and the blue line don't match. That's the immediate vicinity of Squires Elementary, Squire Oak subdivision in Hunting Hills, and in the building figures for at the high school level, I my sheet immediately, but you know, Henry Clay is still considerably overcrowded, and Tate's Creek has space, so why not go ahead and put those in Tate's Creek?
What are they currently districted for?
Let's stay on, let's not make changes that don't have to do with feeder patterns directly.
Well, I mean, that is a feeder pattern issue that also helps the
Yeah,
crowd.
these are the 81 students from Tate's Creek Middle who jumped out of Tate's Creek High School.
Yes.
Currently, they go to Hayes, and remember we moved them out of Hayes to Tate's Creek Middle to help with the crowd in Hayes. And so they were going Hayes, Henry Clay, so this will be changed to Tate's Creek Middle, Tate's Creek High.
These two polygons are Squires Elementary. This area goes to Tate's Creek Middle and Tate's Creek High School. This area goes to Tate's Creek Middle and then Henry Clay. So this area we're looking to move back into Tate's Creek High School.
Yes. I mean, that's my suggestion.
Anybody?
And driving-wise, it makes more sense for them to be at Tate's Creek, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's much closer.
Yes.
It'll move this blue line adjacent with this red line.
Yeah, that's good. Do it.
Thank you.
Okay, it's done.
That, in my opinion, that's the last easy one. All right.
I make a motion. Mm-hmm.
So,
What about the one where Morton had 65 from Lafayette? Is that relatively easy?
yeah, I think that's a good one too.
Because we just moved kids out of Henry Clay so we could.
And Morton is the one that is very, well, I don't know that you have more space in Henry Clay, but Morton is the school that is most
It's way out of
over
bounds. Yeah.
capacity. So let's look at that.
It goes to, but just so we are all on the same page, by 2019, Morton has grown from 104% based on these enrollment in building numbers 127.
So it's the light blue and purple areas. The purple area is, of course, UK, so it doesn't really have hardly any students in our system. There's some out at Town or Shawnee, but it's and most of that isn't in Morton right now in 2015 anyway. The draft proposal puts that area into Morton, but perhaps it should go into LTMS, maybe Beaumont, but probably LTMS.
Scott, could you show us the capacity percentages from those schools?
Yeah, this is good. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Because we've also got the west side of this area that we can look at too, to alleviate. I'm sorry, the east side.
Now, putting these in LTMS, because LTMS is shown with only 400 capacity, will not look good, but we can talk about that. Because obviously LTMS could have many more students. It's a matter of how much space would be left for magnet if you do that.
And Bob, you're thinking this whole area?
Try that for starters, yeah.
Nope. I went to 137 and moved down to 8.
There's 116 students in that area.
And this shows that Morton's capacity is 733, and the current projection is it'll go up to 930. So it would be good to take 100 students out. And in terms of putting them in LTMS is going to be full with magnet students no matter what you do. But this would reduce the number of magnet student spaces by 100.
Exacerbates our pre-reduced situation.
What would this do to pre-reduce?
I'm saying, like, if you reduce the number of magnet students, that makes your pre-reduced situation worse LTMS, correct?
Yeah. Yeah, in the sense that right now the magnet students make a significant improvement in the this would reduce the amount of improvement to be gained by magnet students.
Could you split it somewhere and do half to LTMS and half to Jesse Clark?
and 53 would make sense for Jeff.
Yeah. I mean, in terms of feeder pattern, you're splitting 50, but in terms of capacity, yeah.
So this, we're allocating, right?
Kind of create another
Right, this starts getting...
Because we've got, I assume we have other important areas that we're also looking at, right?
Well, yeah.
Yeah, because I think this is kind of creating another problem to try to solve the problem that
Look at all the
really
things.
not getting just pushing to a different spot.
I think that's a big move on these
I
particular
think
schools
so,
when
too.
we've got other areas of those two schools to look at.
I agree.
And this thick black line is where the current boundary is.
for Jesse Clark.
Yeah.
So the line to the right of that is currently Morton.
Okay.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
318 and most of 327 will be like UK housing. There couldn't be many students in there. There'll be some, but
319 is Crawltown.
yeah.
So how many would be, if we went back to that original line, how many students would be in that 318 and on down triangle?
So what is currently west of the black line, to try and just take those out of Morton?
Yeah,
What is
how many
an
kids
LTMS?
there?
Yes, right there. So instead of moving that group into Morton, they would move into LTMS.
There's 66 students there.
Well, most of those are going to be out the Clays Mill corridor. Why don't we look at,
Yes.
at Jesse Clark? 352 and 353 is where both are. 355.
Jesse Clark is 100% capacity in the building. Yeah.
In those 4 study areas, there's 38. A little bit more than half.
We're still focused on feeder pattern primarily, right?
These shoes are all Picadone, correct?
Most.
Yes.
The Picadone is actually in 352.
Yeah. This is all Picadone.
.318 and 319 could go to Harrison and LTMS.
Probably there couldn't be any.
That's kind of a minimal move. But at least that group to the west of the railroad track that was in Jesse Clark, I would think we should be reluctant to leave those.
Anybody got any thoughts on that?
I don't like.
It was talking about down moving those 2 to Harrison.
How many kids are in those just going into the edge of the pie? There just couldn't be that.
318 and 319.
What level? At middle school level?
Yeah.
Middle school, there's 9 students total in these 2 study areas. Elementary school, there is 29 students total.
Yeah, like our original problem with the high school is 65 for Lafayette. How is changing the middle school addressing that?
How about not changing it at all?
You ready for that motion up to change?
This is that area we got into, we argued about.
I know,
that
that's why I'm reluctant to be wholesale changes here.
We talked about just Clark, is that it wasn't anymore.
I think based on these projections, there's some merit in looking at trying to alleviate Morton, but
I don't
maybe
think
a
that's,
more
The ones I
precise
think
way to do that.
make the most sense are those ones on the Clays Mill corridor, going to Jesse Clark. If we had capacity, if we're at 100%, all of our middle schools are 108, ideally, if we've got a little capacity,
the 100% is in terms of in the building, where ideally shouldn't go over 100%.
All of our ideals are valid. In
Yes.
There are 23 students in these 5 study areas, middle school. That would relieve Morton a little bit.
But if you move them to LTMS is at 100% in 2019.
Yeah, LTMS, it simply reduces magnitude.
Oh.
I think we should come back to this one.
Well, I mean, our original problem was the high school. I mean, we're still not.
Well, in terms of feeder pattern, yeah, LTMS almost consistently goes to Lafayette. So if they went to LTMS, that would be consistent for the high school feeder.
On this one, we're looking at Morton, 721, Henry Clay 656, and Lafayette 65. So what are we talking about?
Moving to 65 kids.
To LTMS. Okay.
Which study areas are 65 kids? You got all of that.
Residue.
Which area is talking about?
Need a suggestion, guys?
Move on and maybe look at what Dave was talking about out in Clayton. Or anywhere.
Anybody else? Just leave this as it is.
If we make adjustments to capacity elsewhere, in the meantime, maybe we did something we can, take another look at. I agree with Jim. We'd like to look at these more.
I want the capacity, free and reduced numbers to be secondary in these conversations. This is about feeder patterns, so that makes sense for that. And then the impact on capacity is what we look at that point. And I don't want to make any changes based on that.
So then our other option would be to move the high school line, correct?
Well, except for Lafayette is in that area.
Yeah,
Lafayette
but
is
that's
in
where
that area.
Lafayette is.
Well, so then we won't do that. That would not make any
Because that would be silly.
So then I think we're at an impasse. I think
I
we need to.
Remind me, Bob, what was so easy about this?
Oh,
Easy.
you've done the easy one.
yeah,
You've done the easy one. That's it.
all right, let's.
I mean, just from the high school perspective, I mean, it happens to us right now at Henry Clay. We've got like little pockets that come in and we deal with it. You send a counselor to the middle school for the day and you schedule. I mean,
Perhaps in terms of looking for more, quote, the easier of the remaining, maybe now it's time to focus on the numbers. Anytime you find a relatively low number, let's look at it and consider moving it.
The other thing is that it says that Picadome all goes to Beaumont. That's not the case. That's not a strict feeder pattern. That Picadome going half to Beaumont, half to Morton.
Where is it?
On the feeder patterns,
Oh.
it says that Picadome all goes to Beaumont. They don't. Half of them go to Morton.
Right.
Picadome and all go.
Right.
Yeah, green area is Picadome to Beaumont, and this area is Picadome to Morton.
And how many students are in that light blue area? Different levels? Is that what is shown on that map?
At elementary school level?
Elementary, well, middle, I think, is the one that's most concerned.
I want just a quick reminder to the committee, we don't have to do any of these. If we're comfortable that everything else works, we can have anomalies in our feeder pattern.
we're already over 20
Just
minutes.
keep that, yeah, just keep that in mind.
Thank you.
Well, you know, in my opinion, if we have like a small pocket of maybe a small amount of kids, we might want to make it. But if it's 50-50, it's a large amount. As long as it's around 50-50, we might have to split some of them.
Yeah.
I mean, but we're just going to have to do it.
That's a given.
Well, for instance, the Veterans Park shows 52 children going to Tate's Creek Middle and 749 going to Southern Middle. That, I think that will be an example.
Right. That might be something we need to look
Right,
at.
and that-
Right. If you got 200 or 300 here and 200 or 300 there, then it's pretty much down to
James now and 92 going to leave.
That's what I was looking at.
Are we looking at James?
The biggest key looks like the Veterans Park situation.
And those are the kids who are coming in from Trent Boulevard, so
We intentionally did that.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to keep them together and have them. 'cause I think
We
it's
built
probably-
that into our discussion.
But now, we wouldn't be changing the elementary boundary, we'd be changing the middle school, right? That's what we do.
So you're saying take those 52.
Move those 52 kids to Trent Boulevard to Southern. On Trent Boulevard to Tate's Creek Middle to Southern. Now, the problem is that they live at Tate's Creek Middle. So,
They would probably put Tate's Creek under the...
Right now, Tate's Creek and Southern, in terms of capacity, are pretty balanced. They each got a little bit. If you put that area into Southern, it'd be discontiguous.
I kind of feel like we did that in elementary school level for a very specific reason that is not needed at the middle school level.
I agree.
Okay. Okay, is that the recommendation?
To leave it?
The movement to Tate's Creek Middle.
It's already at Tate's Creek.
Yeah, so there's
Be deleted.
I'm for that. Okay.
we get a hard one.
All right, let's go back, since we have folks here.
You're looking at like 5 kids per grade going to Tate's Creek and be the only kids from Veterans Park who are going there. I'm not sure that I agree with that. You know, it's like you bus them over to Veterans Park to kind of balance things out, but then as soon as we, use them to balance out our free and reduced lunch, we're going to not let them go to middle school with the kids that we kind of use them for, bust them for. We're going to send them back to Tate's Creek. That bothers me, because to me that it looks like we're using those kids for numbers.
that's exactly
Yes,
what
but,
I do.
yes, but if you're talking about feeder patterns and trying to build communities with kids, then keep them together. That's not a difficult thing in this situation.
They probably shouldn't be going to veterans.
But they are.
Sure,
They
sure,
are.
that, okay.
It still doesn't look right.
Does it look right on the map, or does it look right in the way it should be for
The
these
whole
kids?
thing, the whole thing.
They live across the street from the Tate's Creek Elementary.
I mean, that's bothered me when I left here that night. I thought
I know we both.
I'm sitting right here. Just come over here and sit there.
So Aaron, what do you suggest?
I'm suggesting that they go to Southern with the rest of the kids from Veterans Park.
Malcolm said that he was hearing from some of the parents at Trent Boulevard that going to veterans was somewhat of a hardship for them. So are we continuing that hardship into the middle school? Kathy, do you have any input from the parents?
It's almost equal distance, though, isn't it?
At the middle school level, it's close to equidistant.
Yeah, but they could catch a ride. I mean, everybody else is going there.
I mean, however we decide to go is fine. I just felt like I needed to share my opinion on it.
I agree. I think that shows some of the unintended consequences of some of these actions.
I think we've decided to move the send of the veterans for whatever reason we did. At least let them stay with from that point going forward, minimize the impact on those kids that are moving. If we're not going to go back. Right.
Okay, so I'm hearing a recommendation that we move them, or keep them, no, move them to Southern.
So they can continue with the veteran part to Southern.
Mike, what do you think?
I don't like it, but
But you don't like the whole idea, right?
I don't. I think they ought to go to the school. I think they ought to go to, I don't know what elementary school.
Mill Creek.
Mill Creek, they go to Mill Creek, States Creek. States Creek.
So we've already litigated that.
I'm going to ask for a vote, folks. We got to move on. In terms of trying to reconcile these feeder patterns, where do we want these kids to go to school? In 31, 32, or whatever the hell that's already.
To the southern, if we put them 52 kids in southern.
What's that?
Capacity at southern, we put them on.
Capacity at Southern Middle School is fine.
Right, fine?
Yeah.
Then move them to southern.
So
I make a motion, we move them to southern.
move them to Southern is the motion. Is there a second? Okay. Going to take a vote. If you vote yes, that means you want to move those 4 study areas back to Southern, right? Okay. All those in favor? Okay. We're doing it. Make it happen.
You win.
Let's move on.
That was a good suggestion.
All right. Let's go back east. And to address the feeder pattern from Ashland Elementary. We have basically 4 neighborhoods in consideration here. Kenwick, Fairway, Belcourt, Mentel Park. And currently we have Kenwick and Fairway in Morton and Mentel Park, Belcourt in LTMS.
You know the numbers.
Yeah, let's grab the.
Oh, there it is. Okay.
Let's take a look at the capacity. Have we made a change of significance in Morton yet? Not really. Okay. So we do have tangential to this conversation an overcrowding situation at Morton.
Scott, you do have the spreadsheet from me that has the enrollment at middle and high.
Yes, I do.
Ron, are you still on, by the way? Ron.
I think he logged off. At least audio-wise, he did.
How's Debbie supposed to know?
I don't see him here at all.
I know, he was trying to weasel his way into attendance. He logged in and skipped out.
Did he even say anything the whole time?
He must have known he got here.
Yeah.
But
Where's your note?
you know, I hate when you guys.
Okay. All right. Folks, we've had an awful lot of suggestions from the public for other considerations. We're looking at overcapacity at Morton.
How many kids are in? Did we move some Delta in that? Are these?
You talking about this area here?
Okay.
Well, there must be hundreds, I would think, in Shell Park area.
Oh, really?
These students at the middle school level, 6-8, there are 51 students here.
How many?
51, folks.
Yeah, can I make a suggestion of where the students in LCMS? I agree.
Make what?
Make a motion.
What students?
The ones in the area that you were talking about, the study areas right there. So for those is important. Can we move those and put them in LCMS?
Well, some of those are already in LCMS. I mean, it's that. What happens is there's a third of the kids in all of those areas together from Ashland. And the way we've got it now is we've got a third going to Winburn, a third going to Morton, and a third going to LCMS.
The Winburns, because of
They're going to go anyway.
No matter what.
They're going to go anyway.
So move those 50 students into LTMS. Right. That's what I think.
Yep. Okay. This area now is Ashland to LTMS. I mean to Morton.
So out of Morton into LTMS.
Out of Morton into an LTMS.
That's the proposal to change right now. That's what you're proposing right now.
And that's to keep all the kids from Ashland going
Yeah,
to
that's
KML.
That's right.
It would alleviate somewhat.
Yeah.
Well, it's going to alleviate the capacity issue at Morton for sure. How many kids? Well, how many? 51 in Kenwood and Fairway.
Now Ashland will still be split here.
So that's the one that we fixed earlier today.
Okay. Yeah, you're right. Sorry.
Okay. Kathy's made a motion. Is there a second?
Second. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Discussion.
We need to free reduce too.
Well, that brings us, at least in residents, it brings our Morton number under 100%. And LTMS, which we can somewhat adjust, but that's 120%. I don't know if we can adjust it.
Yeah, we can.
Okay.
So that's taking into account the magnet, right? With
Yeah.
120 fit it into the magnet.
Yeah, that would do. Yeah, right now.
So what you're talking about doing is reducing the magnet.
Yes.
Pretty significant.
Well, I mean, right now there's room for about 330.
It's about 51, right?
Yeah, yeah, right. So down to 270 now.
Assuming none of those would be.
But those are current residents. And that won't match up with that projected in the building numbers, and we don't know if that would be right. But it would be less. But it would be much less at once.
Stephen, about some of this free and reduced lunch we're not going to know because the magnet's going to reduce by 25 to 30% at LTMS.
Did we spend a lot of time on that? The other way?
We have spent a lot of time.
Why do we want to take that on right there?
Well, we're talking about feeder pads. I mean, we've got a motion on the floor, but is that a feeder? Is it really a feeder pad issue? Is it really?
It's like we spent so much time fixing that, and now it's like in 3 seconds we're undoing it.
Well, the other piece of this, though, is the new projected numbers at Morton. has far exceeded what we thought they were going to be.
I understand that. I think when you were working over there around the UK campus area was a better solution to that.
I would say the time we worked on this wasn't necessarily fixing it, it was just being responsive to some requests that we got. So we hadn't identified this earlier on as a problem to be fixed. We did change it, but we hadn't identified it as a problem. And now we see that there is a feeder issue and a capacity issue, and we need to address both of those.
Scott, do these free and reduced numbers include making the move?
Yes, it does. It includes moving these from Morton to LTMS.
Let's talk about impacts here. What do we think will happen if we make this move?
Well, if we know those areas removed, we'll be unhappy.
Yeah. I don't care about that.
I know.
Well, I think that
Let's talk about the kids. Okay.
based on a lot of the comments we've been receiving over the past 2 weeks, the people who weren't included in this said we just want to be reunited. And so that's what this does. It then gives those neighborhoods a chance to do to LTMS what they did to Ashland.
I've heard opposite. I've heard that too. I've also heard from other
we've got
people.
lots of other messages from folks in the neighborhoods who say a lot of the letters and messages that we've received are not representative of the entire neighborhood. There are those who are saying specifically that they don't agree, that they'd be happy at LTMS, they want to go to Morton. There are those who say leave it as is and send the kids to LTMS and let the other kids stay at Morton. So we've heard all of that.
I'm not sure we've heard anybody.
Some of it's not as organized.
So I'm not sure we've heard anybody say they'd be happy at LTMS, but what the petition that we got that was signed by 200 people just this week said that they wanted to get together.
Right.
And they didn't specify which school it was. They just said they didn't want to be broken up.
That's right.
But that was from the LTMS.
That's right.
Not this part.
We have 3 guiding principles that we're looking at being able to fix.
Yes.
One is feeder pattern, one is free and reduced lunch numbers, and one is capacity.
Let's look at those. Let's look at impacts.
Yeah, it
In our
lowers the
schools,
capacity,
not in our
and
neighborhood.
something that's
Okay?
appropriate given the growth. It follows a strict feeder pattern, and it looks like it. I didn't pay attention to the free and reduced lunch numbers before, but I would assume that growth would also balance that out as well. You're looking at a little bit more overcrowding at LTMS, but you are also looking at about a third of those kids going to one of the GT programs also, correct? So it dropped it from 83% free and reduced lunch to 79% free and reduced lunch. I think that's pretty significant.
What did it drop from?
83 to 79. I think you fixed 3 problems with your guiding principles with that.
State it again. Feeder pattern.
It follows the feeder pattern guidelines, follows evening out-ish the free and reduced lunch numbers, and follows the capacity guidelines.
This is about the
Capacity
first
being
move we've
the
made.
working problem.
Correct.
What about the high school?
They all go to no,
Henry Clay.
do they?
Yeah.
All
Oh,
of LTMS doesn't go to Henry Clay.
that's right.
But
All of these go to Henry Clay, but
So you would have Ashland, they would all go to Ashland, they would all go to LTMS, they would all go to Henry Clay. It would be a strict feeder pattern for all 3 schools.
okay. That's right. And we still have the other half of LTMS going a lot there.
Yeah, I think that's going dumb hard.
So,
We can address the LTMS.
Is issue metrics. That's where it's located.
okay, folks, other impacts, other thoughts? I want to move on.
Call for vote?
Ready to vote? All right, the positive vote is to move Kenwick and Fairway into LTMS. So if you raise your hand, that's what you voted for. All those in favor, raise your hand. None. And those opposed? Okay, make it happen.
All right.
What's next?
Okay. You want to look at
Let's
LTMS?
look at the LTMS.
I mean, LTMS and
Okay.
Dunbar. Study area 142.3, yeah.
Doug, are you behaving yourself on the
There's two areas of LPMS that go to Dunbar. And historically, LPMS is not set into Dunbar. The first one is 142, 143, and 147. And the other day, we changed those from Harrison back into Booker T. And Booker T feeds into Windward. Very few kids, well, actually, maybe we should look at this about how many kids at Windbury go to Dunbar. This shows 190 go to Dunbar, and so this would increase if they went to Dunbar. This would increase the number going to Dunbar. I think this might understate a little bit the number going to Dunbar also because of GT. That there might be GT kids at Windburn who end up at Dunbar. But this is just residents. These are just residents, aren't they?
Sorry, what's that?
These are just residents.
The numbers that Scott gave us, those are feeder patterns?
Yeah.
Yes, those are based on residents.
Okay.
Are we talking about moving them to a different middle school?
Right.
But those are residents K through 5. So it's not going to be,
Oh. These are residents K through 5 even when you're talking about middle school?
yes, because it gives you an idea of how
okay.
the
Proportion.
exactly the proportion of the
Okay.
distribution split, because it could be one way or another depending on whether you had a whole bunch of triplets in 4th grade that year.
So that area
Or quadruple.
Well, I mean, like we have several schools, like last year we had a whole news story on
Yeah.
graduating
They all bet.
There's more coming.
So we're talking taking this little section we're looking at here into Dunbar, out of
No, it's in Dunbar. Taking it out of
LTMS.
and putting it in. Windburn is probably the more likely since in terms of feeder because the rest of Booker T goes to
right.
How far away is
Windburn is how far away?
I just can't see on the map.
It's up here. It's probably the third closest school, third closest middle school.
When we go down the hillside.
So what's the downside of moving them into Lincoln?
Make it further than somebody else.
We will probably have the reverse impact. LTMS would be just there.
No. Go the other way probably.
Yeah, this will
We're gonna
help
go the
out.
other way.
Yeah.
I would think so.
You're right.
It might make
Yeah.
In this area, they go to the same elementary school and high school as the north part, but they go to a different middle school. And they're the same high school for the other guys too. it might be worth moving.
So it would make sense.
45 students. So they'd be in the same elementary school of Booker T. Washington. They would go to a different middle school and then go back to the same high school.
So we're trying to, that's what we've been changing here.
Well, it makes sense that we would do that after making the change last night. Yes, at Booker T. It was cleaning up the feeder pattern rate on changing rate last night.
Right, which we knew we were going to address it. We got a consensus on this, folks? I think we got it. All right.
You're wearing me down. I feel like James. I'm not wearing me down.
You want to know how I feel like that?
Yeah.
Okay.
My turn.
I'll get it today in the barrel. All right, what's next, folks? We're clicking along here.
What's that 210? Don't we have the same thing at 210?
I'm sorry, did we have consensus of this one moving to Winburn?
Winburn. Please.
And thank you.
210 is the remaining portion of LPMS, a very small portion that is still in Dunbar. It's not as obvious, though, because that was an area, it's not as obvious of a feeder pattern as that previous one was. They do go to Harrison. You took them out of Cardinal Valley and put them in Harrison, and the rest of Harrison goes to LTMS. So
Can't we put them into LCMS?
they're in LTMS. That's kind of a conflict. You could take them out of Dunbar.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, you could just take them out of Dunbar. Or,
Just move the Lafayette boundary?
yeah, yes.
The blue line is the Lafayette boundary.
There's not many students. And the reason you moved it originally was to alleviate some crowding at Cardinal Valley. Just west of Red.
So there's 13 high school students in there.
Oliver Lewis?
No, further west.
Further west.
It's near Christian Towers.
Okay,
That's Ford's Road right there on the.
I got it. Thanks. And how many students were there?
17.
We got a consensus on that, folks?
Yep.
All right. Scott, can you make that one happen?
And that one is moving it to Lafayette.
To Lafayette, please.
Here we go.
Next.
Correct.
little one?
No longer feeding Dunbar at all.
Okay.
What's that little one right there next to James Brown? It's 361B.
Yeah. It's a good question.
Might be a mistake in the color.
And Cheatham?
Scott, is that a mistake?
Okay, it is.
Could be.
I think we split a study area over there at one point.
We did. So this really should be colored to the blue. So yeah, it is just, we split the study area, that's what the A and B is, and it's just the application is not picking up that split. But yes, that should be colored to the blue. I do my combo, that's part of this area. Yeah. That has consistent, that's consistent with these guys next door.
Right.
Right, and they do go to James Lane out, right?
Right.
Okay. 6:23. I think what we're going to do is stop here. Bob, if you and Lisa can identify for us what's still outstanding for us to consider. We'll need updated maps, of course, if we can. Everybody take that challenge. You're going to need, I think, only 3 more meetings. I suspect that we'll be able to get you Peter Pattern at our next meeting. And Aaron, then we probably won't even need to spend 2 hours. I would think if you do some preliminary work that you suggested. And then we've got to find our date to have the public tell us how well we did.
So optimistic.
Actually, we'd be much better off if we just had people who something if we did well. Just keep the room.
I guess, Al, what's the point of it? I mean, it's like, are we going to go back and change something after this?
No, we're not. But I want, before we present it to the public, to the school board, I want to present it to the public. And just really what people have.
Scott, would you center 417 for a second, please? And zoom in.
And you know what, Mike, that actually could be, if you want it to be, a voluntary attendance for the committee.
And otherwise,
I'm not the one making
yeah, well, we all have one life. Okay. What are we doing? I'm sorry, I lost.
Nothing, I just wanted to look at something.
Okay. All right, everybody got your calendars out? We're moving to Lisa the week of the 6th. And that Monday night is Red's opening day and the NCAA championship.
oh,
So I'm going to be in Indianapolis, I hope. So that probably won't work.
We can have the committee meeting there if you were willing to.
you have a suite? A box?
We do have a suite.
But we're not invited, right?
Pretty full. Always room for, the whole study area. All my former friends at Fairway. Tuesday was not available, Lisa?
No, sir, that's the Equity Council.
Equity Council. Wednesday.
That is available.
Okay.
Does that work for you, Scott?
It does.
Got it. For you?
Wednesday, April 8th?
Yes, it works.
Okay.
All right. Wednesday, April 8th. That should be our finish. Aaron, we don't have to have big public meetings, in fact, for our results. In fact, we may not have to have a meeting unless, everybody would be invited, I suppose. How do you want to do that?
I guess I'm not sure what, this is going to come out sounding wrong, but I'm not sure what the purpose of doing that is if it's not take feedback from people and make changes. To me, it seems like it would just be...
Oh, you're talking about the last thing, huh?
No.
Oh, we're still on.
I'm sorry, I was skipping ahead. I was really excited to be done.
Do we need a full meeting room to do that?
I mean,
Can we, Lisa, can you just find at Aaron's calendar convenience a room that 1 to 10 of us might fit into?
And this would just be to hash out the wordings on the film.
Yeah, right. And so now, Aaron, your comments on what I proposed as the last meeting. Well, I mean, I think I'll let Aaron say.
Yeah, I'll give it.
And whoever can join, try to get it so I can. Okay, and then the last meeting,
The 13th is the school board meeting.
well, we passed over Thursday the 9th.
That's super
Ironically,
council.
it is Passover.
That is the super council meeting. What is
Okay,
it's a district-wide SCDM.
and we don't want to do it on a Friday because we want the public to be able to come. So now we're on Monday, April the 13th.
Which is the school board meeting, and ending the elementary honors chorus.
April 14th, Pete Rose's birthday.
Pete Rose's birthday?
You were just a font of trivia.
Is he going to get in this year?
That's April 14th, which is a Tuesday night for our public conversation. Listening.
Popcorn and peanuts.
Is that a good night
know what that
for
is?
most folks?
I can't be here.
It's not good for me.
And I'm not sure if you need me, I can't be there.
We don't need Scott.
Well, yeah, they need to budget, Scott.
I don't know.
You're in on
If
this.
it's going to be a public input session, then it needs to be at 6.
Right. I agree.
That's nice before tax day, too.
Yeah, that's what they're thinking.
So how many can't be here on the 14th? 2, okay. Let's go to that. Let's
Okay.
publicize that.
I won't be here that Wednesday. I don't think they.
Are we doing anything on that Wednesday?
Yeah, they are. That's
Well, that's our last feeder pattern meeting, HDA. Then Aaron will pull together the committee, and then on the 14th, we'll present our final results to the public.
We may want to do that in Northworthy,
Okay,
so it's a larger.
that's fine. Okay, everybody on board?
Yeah, and that'll be our last meeting, the 14th.
Yep.
When will we present it to the school board?
I don't know, whenever they tell us. Anytime after the 14th.
The 20th.
They've got superintendent search stuff coming prior to that, so they probably appreciate the week separation. Everybody good? All right, go Cats. Bryson? That's the left.